Hello, everyone. Welcome to this monologue that I'm just now kicking off. Anyone and everyone is welcome to join, and I've posted in the three places I always post stuff that I want everyone to join, which is my Facebook page, my Google Plus page, and the YouTube I posted on this same channel a couple weeks ago called Instructions on How to Join a Hangout. It's posted as a comment there. So anyway, those are the three places to look. Soon you'll just be able to look on radish.org, and that's partly what I want to talk about right now is the launch of Radish that we're preparing for. I just spent the last 3 hours with colleagues, two colleagues in India, one in California, on finalizing everything we need to finalize to be able to launch the first version of Radish. So excited about that. And so I just wanted to kind of muse about, where all this is heading. Because you see, with Radish, we're going to be doing things exactly like what I'm doing right now, broadcasting publicly where anyone in the world can just join. You click on the link and boom, you're in. So some people will be doing this publicly where anyone can join. Other people will be doing it, privately, where no one can join, private monologues, private conversations, whatever. But the salient point is, in all cases, they will be recorded and published on a platform such as YouTube and notably on Radish. Right now, we're just doing it with like YouTube videos just because it's so easy, Google Hangouts, et cetera, et cetera. And then you just publish it. You just paste the link on the appropriate series on Radish. And that's where you'll see, so the series is one of the fundamental units. It's a series of conversations. And that's one of the things that we think has been missing from YouTube and other video platforms for years. And that, that's the ability to create series, because that gives it continuity. You're able to build, and then, on a weekly basis or monthly basis or whatever frequency. And it's not to say that it has to go on forever into the future, but it's you can build on it at any time. And in fact, other people can build on it. To quote Sir Isaac Newton, if I have seen farther than others, it's because I've stood on the shoulders of giants. Well, you'll be able to do that in spades on Radish and build off of whatever conversations you want, whatever series of conversations you want, at whatever point in the series of conversations that you want. So you'll have all this flexibility to do all this cool stuff. And what it really boils down to is a place where people can come together and have conversations about saving life on Earth, about refreezing the Arctic, about all the methane that's being released into the world and what to do about that. Do we capture it? Do we mine for it? What do we do with it, right? Right now, we're just letting it all go into the atmosphere. So basically, the bottom line is that right now we're basically doing the worst possible things that we could possibly be doing to the planet en masse. 7.3 and counting billion of us. Humanity has become a cancer on Mother Earth, and it's devouring. We, the cancer, are devouring all of life on Earth. And so the conversations we need to have are, how do we A, stop it, and B, to the extent possible, reverse the damage, like refreezing the Arctic, for example, sequestering carbon, cleaning up the ocean. These are all ways that we can undo the damage. And if you're convinced that it's too late, you're watching the wrong YouTube channel. It's that simple. We're not, this is just not going to make any sense to you, because anyway. So this whole conversation is for people who basically don't think it's too late. And by that, I mean, don't think it's too late to take some action, right? I'm not saying we're going to, completely be able to stave off permanently abrupt climate change or reverse it or whatever. But we can do something. And there's a big difference between doing something and solving all of our problems. And anyway, we talk about this in the series, The Radish Singularity, which we posted the newest one to just yesterday. But anyway, it's about having conversations that address these problems and that talk about what can we do? What are our options, right? Limited though they may be, what are they? And who says they have to be limited? We're a very inventive species, a very clever species, and we're about to really harness human intelligence, human wisdom, such as it is, and in very powerful ways. And I believe that this actually opens up the potential for us to go much, much further in creating possibilities than we ever have before, and to do it in much, much faster than anyone conceives imaginable. And the reason I say that with such confidence is that radical collective intelligence, as we're about to launch, one of its key characteristics is precisely that it can build exponentially in terms of its power, in terms of its power to create information, create connections, and creating connections basically simply connects people and information together in a way that they can create something new that wasn't there before. And that, let's just call that simplistically the creation of new information. So it takes newly created information and pre-existing information, combines them with people in really powerful ways to create yet new information. And so we're basically creating sort of like this I don't know, like nuclear fission process, but of ideas, of information, and just creating mushroom clouds of innovation, such as we're going to need if we're going to refreeze the Arctic by this summer. See, right now that I say that, on March 13th, 2018, it sounds totally ridiculous to whoever's listening in real time. But if you look at it from the exponential perspective of exponentially growing collective intelligence, it's like, you know, what's the problem? Of course we can do that by this summer, right? It just depends on what perspective you look at it. Most people look at things from the perspective of the past, not the perspective of the future. With radical collective intelligence, we get to radically transform the future in time scales that get shorter and shorter and shorter. And the singularity, as predicted by Ray Kurzweil years back, is actually here. This is the singularity. This is where we take all of this information and communication technologies, including layer upon layer of artificial intelligence, and we layer that on really thick, and we are creating this exponentially growing collective intelligence consisting of group human intelligence plus all these layers of AI and bots and whatnot, all interoperating together in this really amazing dance where the human participants in the radical collective intelligence increasingly rely on the signals and suggestions of the artificial intelligence layers. So for example, you know, I might be sitting here doing my thing, doing whatever I'm doing even exactly precisely this, and I might get an incoming message that says, hey, Jamin, you are urgently needed in a meeting on the topic of refreezing the Arctic because of all your knowledge and skill that's relevant to that. I might say, you know what, I'm really enjoying talking about radical musings and all that, but I've really got to get to this meeting. I'll be back. And then I do this. And then, you know, you may wait 10 or 20 minutes, or you may stop waiting and just say, I'll get back to that later. You may jump out yourself. I'll go attend to that and then come back, that sort of thing. And so one of the things that this really gives us is the ability to do this kind of rapid switching from conversation to conversation. I remember, like, you know, Michael Milken, when he was doing the junk bonds, you know, back in the day, back in the 80s, he had like this big X-shaped desk, and he was just like, you know, at one of the voids created by the X. And around him would be 3 different deals, right, in the works. And he'd work on one, right, get him to the point that where they hit something that they needed to resolve. He'd say, okay, I'll talk to you in a minute. And boom, boom, boom. He'd go deal by deal, very similar to what Napoleon would do. Well, this this gives every human being that kind of flexibility, because it takes a lot of organization in order to have, everyone all queued up for a Napoleon or Michael Milken or whoever to be able to go boom, boom, boom from topic to topic, from deal to deal, or from invention to invention, as the case may be. Here, this gives all of humanity that flexibility because it provides the organization, the infrastructure, and the ones doing the heavy lifting is the artificial intelligence, right? Figuring out which conversations you should be in right now to optimally and maximally move the ball down the field. The ball of what? Of buying us some time initially. Right now, what's most urgent, what's most critical is refreezing the Arctic, which will do nothing more than buy us time. And it'll refreeze the Arctic, right? It'll restore integrity to that shrinking mirror that is the Arctic, reflecting sunlight into space. I don't know how many people really realize just how critical that is. And that take away that mirror, and it's just a runaway train of overheating for Mother Earth. I mean, an accelerating runaway train. We've already, many would argue, and I would agree, we're already on the runaway train phase. This would greatly accelerate it, and tragically so, because it's not just about the heating, it's all the effects of that heat and all the extreme weather. Oh my goodness, it's unthinkable. So, if only for that reason alone, we've got to rev up radical collective intelligence now. We don't have any time to wait. And in fact, I call upon all technology companies who would like to get into this area to just jump in, do it, roll your own version of collective intelligence. And, let's create a federation of collective intelligences to address our common need to survive. And first things first, refreeze the Arctic. And then there's myriad other things of only slightly less urgency, such as capturing the methane that's bubbling out everywhere, either preventing it from being released or capturing it if it's bubbling up. And cleaning up the oceans, sequestering carbon through holistic land management, and many other practices. I refer to the book Drawdown by my friend Paul Hawken, who I'll be interviewing soon. And I refer to the work of Professor Guy McPherson, who will be my guest next week at the Sierra Club dinner in Berkeley, California, which I recommend everyone to either go to physically if you're close, and if not, you can watch it either live streaming or recorded that I'll publish. Radical collective intelligence is about addressing each of these issues as effectively as possible. I'm not suggesting we do anything that's impossible, but I'm saying let's take the range of possibilities, the range of that which is possible, and let's find the optimal within that, and then let's execute on that. Radical collective intelligence is about enabling us to find that, and then also figure out and implement all the mechanisms to actually get us to make that transition to that whole new path, that whole new course, that whole new future, that optimal future, within, arguably a set of very bad futures that are ahead of us. What's the least bad of the bad, or what's the best? It's all a matter of terminology. It's all in how you say it, but it's the same thing, really. We're talking about, of all the possible futures from this point forward, not from 200 years ago forward, but from this point forward, what is the best one? And making that happen. And it's going to take vastly higher intelligence than anything we've witnessed on Earth so far that's terrestrial, that's human, including the great collaborations of history. Pick your favorites, but it's going to leave all of those in the dust by many orders of magnitude, higher form of intelligence. That is what we're creating with Radish, with radical collective intelligence, and it could not be more urgent. So some of the, I've been kind of thinking about some of the features that radical collective intelligence will have, and some of these will be immediately when we release it within the next few weeks. Some of them we're going to build in over time. But among the features are, how on Facebook today, all these people get into all these spats and they're, commenting back and forth and this and that and this and that. And it gets kind of pissy and it doesn't really resolve. It becomes like this intense war for like 24 hours or 48 hours and people get really burned out. But, and a lot of information is exchanged, sure. But consensus is not built. And, new creative thinking, if anything, is inhibited because everyone's afraid. And it's kind of hard to be creative when you're afraid and you're trying to defend your position and be right and be impressive and all that stuff. With Radish, by having these conversations like we're having, we have the benefit of people being real, because that's one of the, the features of Radish is you be real, right? You say what you really think, you ask what questions you really have, and you respectfully disagree when you do, and you see, okay, where do we have common ground? Is there a way that we can kind of create a synthesis between our 2 points of view, whatever the case may be, and that process of real conversations across thousands of different topics, eventually tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of topics, and all supported by artificial intelligence, helping guide people to those topics that they're most interested in. Well, okay, how is this not just the most interested in, but the ones where they can add the most value, right? Or where they're most needed, like I was talking about several minutes ago. By the way, if you want to join this conversation, just rewind to the very beginning and where I have instructions. Basically, just go to either my Google Plus page, Facebook page, or there's a specific YouTube video called Instructions, blah, blah, blah. In any of those 3 places, you can find the link, and feel free to click on it to actually jump into this hangout that we're having right now and actually participate if you'd like. I'm just welcoming everyone, knowing full well that it's being broadcast and recorded. So just like folks can jump into this conversation that I'm having right now, and it can become a dialogue instead of a monologue, people will be guided by the artificial intelligence layers of the radical collective intelligence, guiding people either to those conversations where we know you're really passionate about this topic, and or we really think you would enjoy meeting the people in this room based on my personality and blah, 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 and their personalities and blah, 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 and or you are really needed in this topic, either because it maps directly to refreezing the Arctic, which is the most urgent thing, period, right now. I'm just positing that. All right, let's just, for the moment, assume that to be the case. And or you name the criteria, and people will come up with criteria and AI will come up with criteria. But basically what we're looking for is pairing you up with those groups of people who are either already having conversations or with whom, kapoof, the AI is saying, hey, you, these 5 people who don't even know each other, saying, hey, we recommend you come together right now or in the next 24 hours, or, if you've exposed your calendar to the radical collective intelligence, they can see when you've got open times. They'll say, hey, how about tomorrow at 4? Meet these 4 other people. Here's brief little blurbs on each of them. Here's some links to some relevant stuff that where they're talking about stuff that you're passionate about. And so, each of us gets kind of briefed on the others. And I don't know, if you want a 30-second briefing, click the 30-second button. If you want a 5-minute briefing, click the 5-minute button. The AI will be happy to oblige in either case. And so everyone gets briefed on everyone else. And then boof, you're in a meeting, you're talking about the thing, and all kinds of cool stuff is emerging. Everything that's being said is being simultaneously transcribed into text by an artificial intelligence layer. And that text transcription is in turn being mapped to taxonomies of all the relevant topics, topics of problems, topics of solutions, topics of ways of solving problems, topics of resources, combinations of resources as building blocks for solutions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So we call this the toposphere, right? The whole realm of all the topics, and most of which fit nicely into taxonomies. It's really kind of the oddball topics that don't, and that's okay. And so with everything mapped to the toposphere, everything that we're saying turns out to be informational bionomical signals, spread throughout the network. Bionomical pointing to Michael Rothschild's excellent book called Bionomics, which is timeless. I don't care when you read that book, it's timeless. But it sends out all these signals throughout the network saying, okay, this combination of people with this combination of backgrounds and experience are talking about these sets of topics with a view to solving this problem, or with a view to analyzing this problem, or with a view to optimizing this one component of this one solution to solve this one problem, or this combination of problems, because you can often kill multiple birds with one stone. So anyway, as we're having this hypothetical conversation, these 5 people, kapoof, these signals are being broadcast all throughout the network to all the different topics, to all the different people interested in those topics. And it's actually a multi-step process. First, the information is gathered. Then all the relevant layers of artificial intelligence operate on this information and send signals to their clients, human beings or bots, who might be interested in what's happening over there in that conversation, right? And so then, more human beings are invited to that conversation. And like, let's say that suddenly there's 15 people in the conversation. They might voluntarily and or coaxed by the AI, trifurcate into 3 different groups of 5, for example, right? And then expand from there. And so if it's like a really hot topic area, this could mushroom cloud into a whole, broccoli. How like each of the little green nodules at the end of the broccoli, of which there's got to be tens of thousands on a single head, or what, I don't know, thousands or something. Anyway, each of those little green dots on the broccoli is like a conversation, an active conversation. So you can imagine one conversation potentially spawning thousands if it's in a red hot area, like, hey, we can refreeze the Arctic this summer if we get on top of it, and here's how. And then next thing you know, I mean, we need to have conversations of that type. So we're going to be having them on Radish. We got to refreeze the Arctic this summer. Buy us some time. And while in parallel with these newfound, muscles, for lack of a better word, called radical collective intelligence, will suddenly have the confidence to take on myriad other challenges, all in parallel, and very importantly, in a holistic way. And speaking of layers of artificial intelligence, another layer will be the global holistic model, which enables us to, which in turn models simultaneous implementation of myriad solutions, any combination of solutions. So you can see where they interfere with each other, where you have compound effects, where you have canceling effects, you name the nature of relationship between different solutions that will be determined through very rigorous modeling. And, just as the collective intelligence will be growing exponentially, the fruits of the collective intelligence, like the code for the global holistic model, will be improving exponentially. So the singularity is here, and we believe that radical collective intelligence is the gateway to the singularity. And, we're implementing as fast as we can on Radish. We invite competition, we invite collaborators, we invite copycats. The important thing is that the methodologies start being used as quickly as possible. And because as multiple, collective intelligences, plural, start to form, I mean, this is really the next wave, not just of the web 3.0, the next wave of computing, the next wave of artificial intelligence. This is a mashup between artificial intelligence and human intelligence. That's why this is so freaking powerful. It's like a composite that grows exponentially and in myriad directions simultaneously. So we, I don't really know that I got much more to say. I mean, this is all being recorded, so that's really good. So anyway, if you're joining late, just watch from the beginning. But actually, yeah, there is a little bit more I want to say, which is that this is really important. People do best at stuff that they're passionate about. I mean, it seems so obvious to state, but how many hours of your day actually get spent on stuff that you're really passionate about? Think about it, right? A lot of us have so many different obligations, work, family, you name it. Radical collective intelligence, various AI layers that, measure like tonality of voice, volume of voice, hand gestures, facial expressions. Am I smiling? Am I frowning? Am I pausing? We'll be able to very easily deduce how excited I am about what I'm talking about. Okay, that's a measure of passion. There's got to be multiple measures of passion. And, some people aren't so expressive as I am. Well, their passion will reveal itself in different ways, right? So, but the point is the AI layers will determine what you're passionate about, what you're good at, what you're knowledgeable about, because they can cross-verify, cross-check it with, with all the published scientific journal articles, college textbooks, high school textbooks, you name it, right? So they'll be able to verify, how, what you're saying and how it maps to published knowledge versus what you're saying that doesn't map to published knowledge, which is either, useless rubbish, or it's something really valuable and creative, or something in between, right? And eventually the AI will get good at detecting those things as well. But the real, engine that's pulling this from a creativity standpoint are human beings. The artificial intelligence becomes essentially, these really brilliant executive assistants who help the human beings connect with who they need to connect with in real time. Anyway, that's the basic gist of it. And it'll know what you're passionate about, what you're good at, and what you enjoy. And it will be really good at predicting which meetings will be successful and which won't. And so, of course, it'll constantly be guiding people towards meetings that they believe will be successful. They, the AI, right? And of course, they'll constantly get feedback from the humans. Hey, I loved that meeting. Hey, that meeting sucked. Why did you drag me into it? This kind of feedback will really help the AI to get better and better and better at its job. And so we're going to witness the greatest explosion in collective intelligence that has ever been seen on Earth, that's at all terrestrial or human in nature. And so fasten your seatbelts and please jump in. Join us. Join these conversations. Join any of the conversations that we do publicly. The water's warm. The urgency is beyond any words I could possibly. Look, we're all about to die unless we do something miraculous. Let's do something freaking miraculous. This is the platform to create those miracles. Join radish.org. Communicate directly to me through radish.org. And when you see me on one of these public hangouts that anyone can join, feel free to join. It's a very compassionate environment. We don't put anyone on the spot. We don't require anyone to answer any questions of any kind. In other words, total respect of the individual in service of the collective. Thank you all for watching. Look forward to seeing you again soon. Have a good night, everyone. Thank you.